Hey guys, it's Canadian Kyle here at the Wealth Holders Podcast, and today I'm joined with Terri Anne Welyki. She is the VP of Communications for Barksdale Resources, ticker symbol BRO on the Toronto Stock Exchange. And I actually interviewed the CEO, Rick Trotman, on episode 6. So I'm going to put that in the description below if you guys want to check out a copper exploration play. It was one of my favorite interviews. But anyway, we have Terri Anne here today. Terri Anne, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Kyle.
Well,
How
thanks
are
for
you?
being on. Good, good. It's a sunny day for once. We've been getting rain and hail and cold in Thunder Bay. I actually know you're from this neck of the woods, so.
I'm actually was born and raised in Thunder Bay. Yes, I was.
And when did you move out west?
I moved to Ottawa first and started my career in technology I guess I moved when I was 16 or 16. And then I spent many years in Ottawa, started my career in technology. And then that bubble had a big had a big burst. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
made my way out to Vancouver shortly thereafter and got into this business.
Okay, okay. Well, I always ask the guests the same question every time. What were they doing from 20 to 25 years old? So, what about that time frame? Where were you in BC, Ottawa?
I was in Ottawa during that time frame, and I did everything from, running my own business in
Oh, okay.
aesthetics,
Yeah.
and then I was bartending, and then I was headhunted, ironically, into the tech sector. And I worked with Michael Copeland for a number
Okay.
of years, and he was kind of a big figure in Ottawa. He was the founder of Corel Corporation. You might be a little bit too young, but Corel Draw and WordPerfect and Painter were kind of our signature products there. And then I launched my own sports website, and I was writing columns and mostly about hockey, but about all sports. And then made a few appearances on TSN because they really liked what I wrote about. And I
Right.
also had my own column with the Ottawa Sun. And
Wow.
then the year of the hockey lockout happened, and
Yeah.
that blew up. And they were actually locked out for an entire year, and I was heartbroken. And so that's when I made my way to Vancouver.
And why mining? Why the mining industry? Like, how
You
did you
know,
end up here?
I tripped and I fell right into it. It was, there's so much mining here. Um, and I live downtown, and the downtown core is one mining company after another. And it's not rocket science, it's not brain surgery, so it was really easy to learn. And what girl doesn't love gold, silver, and diamonds, right? And I thought it's funny. I thought, well, one day I'll get to pour gold. And when does that ever happen in your career? Never. Like, actually never. You think you work with these junior miners and or explorers, and one day you'll get to pour mine. Like, it is impossible to do that, but I did do it. And once that happens, you become addicted. So here we are.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick to it, and I've learned a
Perfect.
lot from a lot of CEOs, so I want to continue to learn more.
Yeah. Yeah. You never start learning in this industry, that's for sure. So the reason I asked you to come on, Terri Ann, is because you are the VP of Communications, and I want to get your thought on this and the importance of communications and the clarity of purpose with these companies, or lack thereof, and how it can really affect the share price.
Yeah. Um, I think it's a real big problem in our industry. Either there's too much communication where you see a stock price go like this, and then there's no news to back it up, and you see the stock price just collapse back down.
Right.
Or you see a lack of news flow because they're not doing anything. Um, and when you can't reach somebody from the company, that should signal to you that there's an issue. Um, I've learned a little trick along the way where I actually put my calendar on the website, and people can actually go in and schedule a call with me directly. Um, because I think it's important to be transparent and to let them know what's happening. We don't have a lot of news all of the time, but it doesn't mean we're not doing things. So if you don't call the company, and if the company doesn't interact with you, whether you're a small investor, a large investor, a current investor, or a prospective one, like it's our job to talk to everyone. And it's our job to explain what we're doing when we don't have a lot of news, because I use the analogy, we're like a duck on water. It's really calm and quiet, but we're pedaling like hell underneath. um, but sometimes you can't communicate exactly what you're doing all of the time. But you know we said we were, and it's in our presentation, we said we want to deliver X, Y, and Z, and we work through those things every single day. And investors need the assurance that you are, and when they hear
Mhm.
your voice and call. And that's another thing, investors are intimidated to call, and they shouldn't.
I was just going to say that with the young retail investors, like part of the reason I started this podcast is because a lot of people won't do that call in and won't do these conversations with these CEOs in these companies. I don't know how you make a investment decision without doing that.
I absolutely agree. Like, one, don't invest in something you don't know about. And two, if you're going to invest, get to know the people,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? Because ultimately, it could be the best project in the world. If it's in the wrong hands with the wrong leader, you're not going to win. If it's in the right hands, gosh, it could be a
Yeah.
windfall, right? And you need to know that. And the only way you can know that is if you spend time. I mean, I've had the luxury of spending time with multiple CEOs over the years and watching them. And because it's such a small circle, um, you get to rub shoulders with some of the big wigs.
Yeah.
And you watch them. And I get the luxury of watching, Rick Trotman every day, and the drive that they have, right? And then you see the other guys where, a lot of times they're down the street at the bar entertaining, right? Like, where's the money best spent? Where is investors' money best spent? In the ground. And find out. The only way to know that is, one, check the financials and get to know the company. And I think
Right.
that's why making it really easy. If you go to the website now, I actually have a pop-up going, book a call with management, because I really want to make sure that people know what they're investing in and who they're investing in, right? And that we're all aligned,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Like,
Yeah. We'll get into the investment side a little more because I have a ton of questions on that, but I want to stop and put a pause on that for a second and talk about, you're actually the first female guest I've talked to in the mining industry. It's a rather male dominated industry. So I want you to talk about, to maybe the young women listeners out there, if there are any or many, but you kind of said you just fell into this industry, but do you regret the decision? Do you see this as a good career path for young women? It's especially with communication, it's being so important. Um, do you see that the commodity industry is a little outdated and they need that fresh set of eyes on it? So a
absolutely.
big question, but
Absolutely. You know what I think women are really good at? And I think the women on the IR side are particularly strong because I don't want to say motherly instinct, but we actually care a great deal and we protect what's ours, right? And I treat every investor like family. And I actually care. And I think females on the IR side or on the communication side can really articulate that and really show investors that we care. And ultimately, I do. I am aligned. I write checks into every company that I've ever worked for, and significant checks. So I'm aligned. So when I hear somebody call me with a little bit of anxiety or excitement, or stress,
Mhm.
like I feel it. Like I feel it whether it's excitement and I'm happy with them because I'm aligned. When they're stressed, we have to work through those conversations. Um, so I think we're a little bit more, I don't want to say emotional, but we're a little bit more empathetic
Mhm.
and we take more time. And I think that's something that's missing in the mining business, right? Like, or actually in any publicly traded company. It's not just mining. I know a lot of amazing female geos, right, that are in the
Yep.
field and they do excellent work. Um, you've got Empress, Royalty. We've got some women at the helm of some of these really great companies that are charging forward and delivering. So I think over time, things change. Men and women complement each other. So I think there should be men and women in every business,
Agreed.
on every level of, and because we have a different skill set, we deliver different things in a different way, and we hear things differently than men do.
What do you mean?
Well, we all hear things from a different perspective, right?
Mhm.
um and it's really just that, it's perspective. We see things from there's hunters and gatherers. And I think it's a beautiful marriage when you've got a company that's diversified with um, different types of people. You're stronger,
Mhm.
and you have to leverage those skill sets, right?
Yeah.
I would not want to be in Rick's position, but I love doing what I do for the company.
Yeah. Well,
Right?
with if you look at geology, engineering, even the financial industry, not many women are attracted to it. It's not that there's anyone putting up a stop sign saying you can't participate or you can't do that career path. It's just that they might not be passionate about it. But you seem to have found your passion in the mining industry, and yeah, no regrets or nothing there. Hey.
No, not at all. And I would encourage women to like find a mentor, right? Like, and it doesn't have to be another woman.
Hmm.
It can be, absolutely, but it doesn't have to be. So actually do um, find a mentor. I mean, that's the best way to kind of find your confidence.
Hmm. Hmm. Well said. Um, okay, so you take your investing into your own hands too, right? You're a self-directed investor, as
I
I.
am.
Now, I don't want people to lose the shirts off their back in this industry because people make a lot of money and people lose a lot of money in the mining industry. So, for those new investors that might not have the geology or the financial background, but there are people that get attracted to the space that don't have that, and it doesn't stop them. So, any advice for those new, naive, young investors out there?
Do your research, and it's not easy.
Hmm.
It's call the companies, right? Get them to walk you through the presentation, right? Like I had to learn early days. I didn't know what a royalty was, right? I had to ask the question. I didn't know what um, patent and mining claims meant versus BLM or versus this or versus forest service land. Like I had to, and there's so many acronyms.
Yeah. Yes, there is.
ESG, right?
Mhm.
Like I had to. You have to learn everything, and there's no stupid question. Like
Mhm.
there's really not. And if you think that they're like, you can't be embarrassed to call the company or to ask a silly question. I mean, somebody called me the other day saying, "Hey, I want to invest in the company. Can I just send you a check?" Right? First time investor. And
What are you
most,
talking
like
about?
you
Yeah.
and I would be like, that's not how it works. We're publicly
Yeah.
traded. You have to actually sit back and say, okay, why do you want to invest in this company? And then they explain to you why. And I'm like, okay, they've done their research. They actually, but then you have to, direct them to somebody that can help them, you know, either buy some stock or, think about it a little bit longer. But there's no silly question. Ask the questions and call the companies, right? Listen to podcasts where they're interviewing the company, so you can get a feel of who you're investing in. Because at the end of the day, you can look at a chart, and it depends whether you want to be an investor or trader, right? Like there's a big to me there's a big difference between investor and trader. Um, I fall in the investor category, and in that sense, I would say call the company, ask questions, watch the interviews, and then see if the interviews are consistent over time. Did he say something or did she say something, and did they deliver? And if they didn't, that should signal a red flag. And if they did, that should give
Yeah.
you
One
flag.
thing I want to point out too is subscribe to newsletters because you gotta keep up with them. If you want to be a self-directed investor, don't get into a ton of stocks. Focus on a few. And when I first started, I gave myself 3 years and set an X amount of dollars. And I said, if I lose this, that's okay. This is 3 years of education. If I'm not cut out for it, I'm not cut out for it. I'm not going to invest more than that. But care to share any of your learning experiences along the way? You weren't always so successful, were you?
No, I lost my shirt on a few things. Um, but you learn, right?
Hmm.
I have a completely different philosophy now. Like at the beginning when you're learning, I would take other people's word for things, or you hear, a tip on the street, oh, this stock is going to go for a run. And I'm very instinctive. Like, and this is, I'm pretty much tapped into my, into my instincts. So the way I do things is probably not right for everyone. However, moving forward, I invest in the person at the helm. I invest in the team. And since I've made those decisions and really kind of stopped taking the streets,
Yep.
you know, you don't take your information from Twitter, um, or your stock tips from Twitter. Um, I invest in the person and in reputation. And
Hmm.
I watch whether they deliver what they say over time. And that's where I place my bets. And I'm really diligent at following what they're doing and how they're doing it. You know, watching how they're spending the treasury and whether every dollar is accretive or not. I mean, not every dollar is going to be accretive, but if the bulk of their money has been spent on accretive things, then I think you're in good hands.
Right.
But man, when I've taken, usually when somebody says, buy this stock, oh my God, you got to get in, they're selling. You're buying what they're selling.
Hmm.
That's kind of where I see things kind of as a, as a, just because I'm on the street all the
Yeah.
time, right? Like Vancouver's like the hub. When there's somebody that's being a little bit too promotional, my radar goes right up.
Yeah, I want to talk about because it's one thing to say you have good instincts, but I've had multiple guests that are familiar with you and know who you are, and I've heard them say she's so good at picking the right people. I don't know what it is. It's like a sixth sense with you. So, like, what is there like a certain feeling you get, or is it just doing the proper due diligence? You have a checklist, or how do you vet these people? Because if you're not on the street like you say in Vancouver, or if you're not talking to these people, like can you even know? You kind of have to pick up the phone.
Uh, I feel like I always look for, do they have a chip on their shoulder?
Okay.
Right? Are they hungry? right? What's their motive, right? Like ultimately, what's their motive? Um, and that'll always give you the answer, right? If the answer is, I want to buy a Ferrari, I'm out.
Hmm.
I'm out, right? Like Rick and I, when I met Rick, I was interviewing for the job, and really I was interviewing him because I wanted to align with a company that was going to do something really great. And we were interviewing each other back and forth, and it was kind of funny because he was like, "I feel like you're interviewing me," and
You were.
ultimately, I
Hmm.
want to. Am I the best IR person? Am I probably not. I mean, you have women in the business like Michelle Roth, who's exceptional, right? Like she's an incredible IR person. Um, and I think, for me, it's I really care and I really want to win. And I saw that in Rick and I see that in other CEOs. And it's not because they want to buy a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. It's because they want to create a name for themselves. They want to make investors money and they want to do it again. Like they're true entrepreneurs.
Hmm.
So when I think if you invest in a true entrepreneur, somebody who is a serial entrepreneur like an Elon Musk, I think like I'm pulled towards that. And those are guys like the Rick Trotmans, the Alex Zukernicks, the Greg Smiths, the Dan O'Flaherty's,
Yep.
I mean, who else do I love in this business? Like serial entrepreneur, like the Pan American Silver guy,
Ross
Ross
Beatty.
Beatty, right?
Hmm.
Like now you have this younger generation of Ross Beatties coming up. Those are the guys I want to align with, or the girls I want to align with, right? Like the women.
Hmm.
Um, and I feel like they've got a chip and they're hungry and they want so badly to win, and you can tell. And they know their business inside out, backwards, sideways. You can ask them a question and they never hesitate with an answer, ever, ever. That's when you know you're in the right place.
Yeah, that's well said. I'm curious. I don't know if I should be asking on the podcast, but I'm curious because for the listeners out there, the way I started this podcast was actually Terri Anne reached out to me. I subscribed to a company, and she reached out to me and asked, "I see you subscribe to our newsletter. Do you have any questions? How can I help?" And I'm like, "Wow, this is very rare. For what I've seen, I've been investing for 4 years, 5 years at the time, and no company reached out to me like that." So I said, "Yeah, you know what? I do have some questions, but I'm also interested in starting a podcast." And Terri Ann's like, "Well, let's book a meeting, let's chat." And my elevator pitch must have been okay because you helped me open some doors for me. And I actually had some phenomenal guests because of your network. And I'm just curious, why did you say yes to me? And why did you give me this opportunity to sit down with such exceptional people?
Instinct.
Yeah, your instinct again.
I think, it's easy to spot a winner when you're used to finding them a little bit, right? Like, um, there's just something in somebody, the tone of their voice
Yeah.
or the questions that you asked were very intelligent questions. And I'm like, this guy does his due diligence. And you look so young. And it took me a little bit off guard. And I was like, and I thought if somebody can communicate with the millennials, this is the guy.
Yeah. Well, I
And
try my best. I try and ask those questions that if I were to invest in these companies, what would I ask? And I'm just sharing it with the millennials that might be interested in this space because you can find I got attracted to this space when I was young, and I don't know what, I guess it's the returns. It might be just making money, but
it's also you're relatable, right? Like you have you've had some incredible people on the podcast like Rick Rule, Think he's great. Very savvy investor. Very hard. Actually, you made him relatable, which was really pleasant because I never saw that side of him. And I think the younger millennial investor needs to relate
Yeah.
because there's so much noise out there. And there's a lot of noise. I mean, pick a platform. I mean, how do you pull things apart and figure and stuff out, especially investments, right? So when I thought, I was like, this guy can be relatable. Like he can really.
Well, when you have a computer screen and a Zoom, it's like we're sitting at a table together talking. It just you're a few thousand or a few hundred kilometers away. Um, but if you just do a Q&A style interview and they just ask you, you ask the questions that they want you to ask them, you don't get to see that human nature and you can't pick that instinct. My grandma, she watches every one of these episodes and she tells me, she's like, she's kind of like you. She says she has an instinct with people. And she's like, I like that person, I don't like that person, and this is why. And it's interesting because with these relatable conversations you can get down to who are these people, what are they all about. Hmm.
Grandma's right.
Hmm.
Right, like experience, right? Like it's so important to surround yourself with people you can learn from. And it's not just the brains in the business and the really great investors. It's also like, it's also grandma, right? It's
Hmm.
also, you know, you have to dial in, you have to be able to dial into both sides of of a person, right? Who are they as a person and what drives them to carry this business? And if they don't really match up,
There's a lot of
yeah.
opportunities out there. Yeah, you don't need to.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really great opportunities and there's a lot of opportunities that might hurt you. So
Yeah.
when you can marry the two beautifully and actually showcase that, I think that's what's going to make an investor comfortable. And then you have to deliver, right?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I'm curious, where are you parking your capital right now? What are you solely 100% commodities? Is that what sticking with what you know? And
You
is
know what's
that
funny? I just invested. You're gonna laugh. Um, in oh, I invest in people first and foremost. And this gentleman and his wife, um, I knew them from my tech days, and I helped them raise some capital in that company, and they got an exit for the people that I brought into, and so it was great. Everybody won. Everybody was very happy, and they just launched a new product that has nothing to do with mining. Well, a little bit to do with mining, but absolutely not. It's a product.
okay?
It's a retail product, and that's the first time I've ever invested in an actual retail product. So that I did that recently, but mostly mining, a little bit of bio. Again, people.
Now, with the mining, what type of
There's an excellent fund out of Toronto that I parked a bunch of money into that's been great as well. It's a long short fund.
oh, okay.
Park some money in that one. He would be a great interview, actually. Now, come to think of it,
We'll
like,
talk after the interview, see if I can get a hold of him.
so I'm a little bit.
But
I'm not all in mining,
mhm,
although that's my fort. Like that's what I know.
mhm.
Um,
The reason I ask is because I want to know there's different business models in the mining industry. You can have an exploration company, you can have a prospect generator type of exploration company, you can have a royalty company. That's where I like parking my money. And I'm wondering, based on your knowledge in the industry or knowledge period, what type of companies you're invested in, because Barksdale is not for everyone.
no, it's not. Um, However, so what I have in my portfolio, the reason why I like royalties is because I like mailbox money.
Hmm.
And what I mean by mailbox money is invest in a really good royalty company that has the ability to give you lift in the share price, that's in commodities that you think are the cycles right, and that over time will pay you a dividend. So you hold the stock and you just keep getting your mail. You open your mailbox and it's a check, not a bill. So I really like that for long term. I love exploration. If ever you ever get to go to a drill site, it's so exciting. Like I love site tours. I love site visits. Um, Making a discovery is a once in a lifetime fun thing to do. But it's high risk, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also very high reward potentially. Um, and then depending on the assets in the company, what I like about um, a company like Barksdale, the portfolio is diversified, right? So you have grassroots, never been drilled, could be a discovery. Then you have something that's advanced stage exploration where you can take it to a production decision in short order.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have, the big monster on the side that can be, um, you know, exploration, but can move into a production scenario on a takeover overnight.
Yeah, that
So
optionality. Yeah.
that one just has so much optionality that I really love. And then you have the pure play explorations you know, that are super high risk, but also very high reward that can be fun. And then you have the mining companies that are, the mid tiers and the majors that are, they know what they're doing, but where are they in copper? Are they in gold? Or
Right.
where is the cycle at? And I think right now there's a lot of noise in with what's happening in the world right now. So I've leveraged copper a lot. I've leveraged the battery metals a lot, actually. Um, but I am a gold. I've always loved gold. The day you see a gold pour is the day your whole world changes. Yeah, and
Yeah.
silver. I love silver. These days, I
Both the
feel like
batteries and precious metals.
it feels more industrial
Mm-hmm.
lately to me. Like there's so many use cases for silver that it is a precious metal, but I feel like it lends itself more to industrial in this technology revolution or this electrification revolution.
Yeah, that's how I view it. An industrial metal with the optionality of being a precious metal. It's pretty exciting.
I know, and that's why like a precious metal royalty company is so appealing, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. For sure. Um, so I want to get your thoughts because I've talked to many guests that are on the Canadian exchanges that were Canadians, or Americans, but now they're in a different country. And a lot of my guests are Canadians. And after we talked, they're telling me they're moving away from Canada. So I'm just wondering, what do you think of this beautiful country we call home right now, and in this strange world I don't think anyone thought was going to be what it is today, 2 years ago.
It's to me it's a frightening time, right? There's a lot of misdirection, a lot of uncertainty, and a lot of decisions being made not based on um, real information. I don't know. I'm thinking of buying a place in Mexico um,
You know,
imminently.
yeah, you're not the only one. I know people that are thinking just move, just get
It,
out of here.
it's scary right now what's happening, and if your narrative doesn't fit what's out there, it's scary. Like you have to really watch. It feels terrible to have to watch what you say or what you feel for fear of being persecuted for some silly reason. um if somebody's not aligned with my thinking, it doesn't bother me in the least. I just kind of just move on and ignore it. I don't need to sit there and argue with them. But I feel like if you lend yourself more to the center
Hmm.
or center right, it feels uncomfortable. And I think that's why you're seeing people wanting to make a move. Critical thinking is seems to be lacking these days, and there are more followers than leaders. And I think we need more leaders,
I agree.
and we desperately lack leadership in this country. And that's where you're seeing the entrepreneurial spirits will exit, right?
Mhm.
The people who create jobs, the people who create wealth, um, will be pulling out.
Yeah, I agree. One thing exciting about Canada, though, is we do have many extractive industries, and if you do see
Ugh,
a commodity super cycle, like you can do
if,
okay for yourself if you
if
study
they
and work
allow
hard.
it, if they allow it, we could be
Hmm.
where we should be.
Hmm.
You know, king of the hill. We have an extraordinary energy sector. We have an extraordinary mining sector. Our farming, like we are, we have everything it takes to be
I was talking to an individual, and they were talking about the oil sands, and they're saying it's better than going and fracking and exploring for it because we know where the oil is. Let's just focus on doing it in an energy and eco-friendly way. It's not going to be perfect, but my family's a logging family, so I always like saying, well, everything you touch has either been grown or mined, and unless you're wiping your butt with your hand, you're using toilet paper, which is trees. No one wants to talk about deforestation, but it's a consumer problem. It's not an extractive problem.
well, you either have to mine something,
Hmm. Or grow it.
grow it,
Hmm.
or kill it,
Yeah.
right? This is the only way you're going to get anything in life. And think about your home. Remove any oil product from your home. What is left?
Not a heck of a lot.
No, but what is left? Even, the gyprock on your wall, or the, like, things have to be transported from one place to another. So how is it transported? And so nothing exists without
Well,
without
if we're talking about the green revolution, you're gonna have to
your
mine the
Tupperware.
copper. You're gonna have to mine the nickel. Hmm.
Absolutely. And Canada has the most stringent regulations to protect the environment and to protect people on these jobs. We are we've developed, over time, we've evolved into better people, better systems, better technology, um, better regulation. There are no regulations in the world that protect the environment more than Canada and the US, for that matter. I mean, we take these things very seriously. We actually, Canadians, care, and that includes Canadian businesses. I mean, I don't know. Have you been to Tech Resources website lately? I was literally like sobbing.
No, I haven't lately.
They actually have one of the most incredible websites when it comes to ESG. And I mean, when you look at zinc, right, especially in the time like today with COVID running rampant, zinc actually is a very beneficial mineral to strengthen your immune system. But what tech is doing with zinc in Africa and all over the place, the amazing things, the lives they are saving, the lives they are saving on a daily basis would blow your mind. But nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about the babies dying from diarrhea and dehydration.
Hmm.
And now there's a solution, and it's being handled by one of the greatest mining companies in the world. They're literally saving babies there all day long. And I'm not even kidding. Go to their website. It's beautiful. They're not just, one, they're extracting the resources responsibly. And two, they're doing good things with the money and the resources that they take out. It's not old school mining anymore. It's not, dig a hole and leave it and pollute the rivers and whatnot. Yes, at one time it was destructive. We're more educated, we're more knowledgeable. There are firm regulations, and if you don't abide by them, you're in big trouble. It's a different era.
Mm-hmm. And there's more people that care too. It's like even if there is less regulation, me as an investor, you as an investor, you want to be investing in these companies that are doing the right steps and are being transparent with this information and
Right.
following all the ESG guidelines.
And that's another thing. Like, know the regions that are mining or depending on what sector you're investing in, mining friendly. I mean, there's some and safe, right? Safe for people and safe for actually extraction as well. Learn what jurisdictions are the strongest and invest that way as well. I personally, I would avoid certain countries, and I wouldn't put my money into management teams that go there. Most of the management teams I invest in generally are more 100% are working in jurisdictions that are safe and that have strong regulations, that are mining friendly, that something could actually get from exploration to production in a economical, safe, and environmental manner. And that's why Canadian and US assets go for a premium.
Yep.
Because once you have your permits, it's really hard to get those removed, because you've done every single study, painstaking study, protect the birds and the bunnies and the bees and the water and the air and even noise, studies for noise. We do all the studies. Like North America, for lack of a better way to say it, has their shit together. Like, they care.
Yeah, well said. We're running low on time here, and I think this is going to be a really good episode for the vault, though, Terri Anne. And typically, I don't make this available on YouTube because I'm trying to get my subscriber count up. So you guys like and subscribe. But I think we're going to keep this one to the public. We're going to have it on YouTube as well as Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So let's get into it.
All right.
And Terri Anne in the vault is just 3 questions. It's not about the company you're in. It's more mentorship like questions that I ask every guest, and it's been the favorite part of these interviews for me personally. So the first question is mentorship from your parents. Now, what did they teach you at a young age that has stuck with you to today?
Resilience.
Go ahead.
I think being resilient, whether you fall on your face 1,700 times, get back up. Don't be a victim. Pick yourself up, pull your bootstraps up, and keep going. Keep taking a step forward, because at the end of the day, you have yourself, you have your knowledge. Learn from your mistakes, but don't make yourself a victim. Be resilient, keep going forward. And I think both my parents, had great times and had hard times, and then had great times again, and they came back out the other side because they were resilient, and they just didn't sit there and lick their wounds and feel sorry for themselves. They moved forward. Don't be a victim.
Yeah, especially in this day and age where a lot of people would rather be a victim and then do the hard thing and do what a lot of people won't do. But if you do what a lot of people don't do, you progress and you become what a lot of people aren't.
And life can be so much fun once you come out the other side.
Mm-hmm. Great answer. Second question. We are the Wealth Holders podcast. So if you could name one wealth holder or high net worth individual, and if you don't want to disclose their name, that's fine. You don't have to. but what did they teach you either in your career or life in general that has really impacted you for the positive?
Oh, I'm gonna name drop.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna say Greg Smith, Dan O'Flaherty, and uh, and Rick Trotman, all younger CEOs types. They taught me to be confident and to really own what I know and to trust my instincts when it comes to my job. And they really empowered me to just be me. And that was like enough and more than enough. Um,
Was it reassurance? Like, did they just
and well, I just think it's and it's funny because with that comes all of the other parts, right? Um, being a woman in this business surrounded by men all the time can be challenging, and you have to learn how to have thick skin and fight your way, fight for your voice to be heard. And what they did was just, it was just always natural with them, and it just really gave me a sense of confidence and I felt, a little bit powerful. And that translates, you love your job so much more and you're better at it and you care more. And yeah, I think they just naturally gave me confidence by always having my voice heard in the room.
well said. That's awesome. Last question. I'm just a 25-year-old starting this journey in life. Feel free to provide some advice to the younger listeners out there, whether it's investing advice, career advice, life advice, and just have at her.
Fail.
Yeah.
Fail big. Fail as big as you can now. And and then and learn from it. I mean, I've learned so much more from my failures than my wins. Winning feels good, right? And you kind of learn a little bit by winning, but sometimes you win because you're lucky. The juice really comes when you fail and you learn and you progress.
Mhm.
Um, Surround yourself with people that either inspire you or are smarter than you. I mean, I always hang out with really smart people because at the end of the day, they're a resource.
Mhm.
Um, you're not going to be good at everything, so have people around you that have those other skill sets. Choose a life partner that inspires you. That's, oh gosh, that's the one. Choose a life partner that inspires you, one that you respect and can learn from.
Be
And
picky.
fail big.
All right. Well, thanks, Terri Ann. I like letting my guests close off. So, yeah, Terri Ann, VP of Communications for Barksdale Resources. I'm going to leave a link in the description for my conversation with Rick Trotman. I recommend you guys listen to that one too for Barksdale if you want a more in-depth conversation about that specific company. But Terri Ann, balls in your court. Close us off. Talk about anything you'd like.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you very much for having me and indulging me. And I hope all of you guys and girls that are investing in whatever you're investing, take the time to get to know the people that you're investing in because they could have the best idea ever. But if they're the wrong person, they're not going to take it to checkmate. So don't be afraid. Book a meeting with management, get on the phone, send them an email, call them. It's worth your time.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kyle.